Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of the Cinema Wave Podcast here at the Culture Wave Media Network, and we are back to talk more Yellowstone. I am one of your hosts. My name is Darian Scalamoni. I am joined, as always, by Liz Seiko.
Hello, what's going on?
We have, after this episode, 2 episodes left of Yellowstone proper. Liz's heart's about to fall out of her chest.
I want more episodes. I'm actually really loving
I love
this
the way that
season.
it's getting paced this season.
Mhm.
So, Liz was just giving me shit on camera before we started recording that she was like, "You still hating this season?" Which I already said I loved last week's episode.
I know. I'm just checking.
And I really enjoyed this week's episode as well. It was actually the shortest episode of the season.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it was one of those classic Yellowstone episodes, but done very well. It's very much a setup episode for what is to come in the final 2. However, we do get another death, which we'll discuss because Liz is heartbroken over it.
It was emotional. It was emotional. Okay.
But the biggest standout to me is actually what we talked about last week, is just loving to see what they're doing with Kayce.
Mm-hmm.
I think that the role that Luke Grimes is playing in the second half of season 5 has really asserted him as just like, again, like the character that unfortunately is like, he's just always off to the side. Like in recent seasons, there hasn't been a lot done with him. And I love that he's taking ownership in a situation with Jamie that everyone was like, oh, it's going to be Beth. Like it has to be Beth. And
could still be Beth.
It still could be Beth.
Still be Beth.
Still could be Beth. But the way that Kayce's going about it, I just love how he's like asserting himself as somebody that like, this is who he was.
Mm-hmm.
And you see it in the end of the episode, but we'll get to that. So your overall thoughts, Liz?
I really loved this episode. After I finished watching it, I texted you saying like, I'm so like this. I'm very overwhelmed. It's very emotional. Obviously we lose Colby in this episode, which for me, it wasn't the death itself. It was just the amount of time that they gave Teeter's character of her response to it. I didn't expect for her to have that much screen time, and I really loved it. I think that it just showed how much all of these people care and love about each other, and it kind of just brings it back to it's more than just about the ranch. It's also about the people on the ranch.
100%.
And then the other really emotional scene that we had was with Jimmy finding out that John died.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I just was like getting hit by a lot of like big scenes.
You're going to cry right now?
No, not right now, but it was like very emotional. I feel like,
I agree.
Which is a nice step back because we were doing a lot of politics, which it's a huge part of the storyline too. But I think it was a nice breath for the audience to be like, everybody cares about each other on this ranch, and they're at the end of the day gonna do what they have to do to save it. And a brilliant writing tactic to get all those people that were in Texas back home.
Yeah.
Brilliant writing tactic.
I agree with everything you're saying. I think the emotionality in this episode is definitely something that is on display. And I think that so much of it is just experiencing human moments with these characters that here's the reality. Yellowstone is such a massive brand in and of itself. And like there are Rip and Beth t-shirts. Like they are caricatures at the end of the day. Like the Yellowstone is a massive brand. But you really get to the human moments with all these characters. There was one moment in this episode, which is the aftermath of Colby's passing, where Rip is sitting in the house.
I love this scene.
Great scene.
Loved it.
And he's sitting by himself. And I said to myself, when Beth says to him, like you have to throw something, and I said out loud to Trisha, my girlfriend, I said, this is going to be really interesting because in 5 seasons of the show, you've never seen Rip lose his shit. Mm-hmm. And he does. He unloads and takes this whiskey glass and chucks it at the fire because he's so beat up over the fact that he's overwhelmed in the same way that also reflects how John was.
Yeah.
With so many decisions and so many things happening, trying to protect the ranch, trying to do well by his men and women, trying to do well by his loved ones, by his child. Mm-hmm. Like we're seeing it unfold.
Yeah.
And I think that was why this episode, and it's growing, the season's growing for me, like week to week. I don't think this episode was better than last week's, but I think it was a very different episode, and it's still quality-wise just as good. I really enjoyed
this episode.
Because it explores, like you had said, the real people behind this enterprise and this ranch and what it means to be a Dutton and what it means to be a member of this family. And you get those moments even I think they're doing such a good job of balancing the ensemble this season, and particularly in this episode, because every single character gets a moment to shine in this.
Yeah.
Even a scene where they go, like when Kayce and Tate go to take the horse to be
Mhm.
eaten by the wolves, and they have a conversation, and
About,
Tate gets
like,
a moment.
I
Tate goes, "I
know.
don't want to be the one to bury you one
Mhm.
day," and then Casey's like, "Well, it better be that way because it can't be the other way around."
Yeah.
And it's just like even little moments like that. It's like that's good writing. That's
Yes.
establishing these characters and building off of these relationships. And of course, I marked out for Jimmy. I mean, I love Jimmy so much. Jimmy is probably my favorite character on the show besides Rip, and it's part of why I think I was so critical early on,
Of
even
them
though
not
Rip
showing
didn't
him that
know it.
much.
Yeah, because Rip didn't know it, but it was like perfect example. You get one scene in episode 1 with Rip and Jimmy, and it's him ragging on him,
Mhm.
which I do understand that's also their relationship. But then you get to a moment with Taylor Sheridan's character, who I always forget who he plays because he's in all of his own shows. But Taylor Sheridan, who runs the Travis, he runs the Texas Ranch, the 4-6s, and he's on the phone and he gets the word from Rip that John dies, and Rip goes, "I don't have the heart to tell him that." Like,
Mhm.
that's a deep-rooted emotional relationship.
Yeah.
And also that moment meant so much, as well as the Teeter moment, because the relationship between Teeter and Colby have been growing throughout the seasons. But when you think back at, like, Jimmy was a low-life scumbag with nothing to his name,
John totally
and
saved
John
him.
saved this guy's life and made him into something. And I love the moment when he goes, "I don't need to take the week off.
Mhm.
I'll take the
He's like, he
weekend
was a
because."
cowboy. He
And
wouldn't want me to.
yeah, and it's like what you've been talking about now for weeks, how we're also embodying this importance of what it means.
To be like a cowboy and a
And a
rancher.
rancher,
It's what they
100%.
keep every episode. They just keep bringing it back to, which I think is kind of the overarching umbrella story of this episode is like, yes, they have all this shit going on about the property, but at the end of the day, the most dangerous job is being a cowboy because you literally can just die like that because
Mhm.
a horse just hits you. Like there's all of these like violent crimes and like people getting shot up in the streets in their car, but at the end of the day, being a cowboy is just as dangerous as anything else,
Mhm.
but they all still love it. So I think there's like the beauty and danger all within, and they're really honing in this season on that.
Yeah, and it's the livelihood of what it means to all of them.
Mhm.
Like, even counteracting that point, like when Teeter does find out about Colby's death, and we get the exchanges of "I love yous" in the beginning of the episode, kind of further establishing the relationship that it's more than just like um
Like a quick
a quick
romance.
romance or just like a sexual fling. It's more
Mhm.
than that to these two
Yeah.
characters. And I love where you get the moment where Teeter's really hung up about it, and Walker comes up to her and is like, "Do you want me?" And she's like, "I know how to fucking unwrap a horse. Like, I
Yeah.
didn't forget just because my boyfriend's dead."
Mhm.
And I'm like, "That's what it means to be a
That's
ranger."
yeah, there she
It's just
goes.
like it's great the way that they establish the relationships between all the characters. And I
Mhm.
agree, it is like it's also a very convenient narrative
Oh,
to
it's a
get
perfect
everybody
narrative to
now
get it
back
because we were
to
talking
Montana.
about it in the last episode. We were like, are all of those people that are in Texas just going to be completely kind of written out of the rest of the season and we're not going to visit them? But now they're forced to come back and kind of fight for their land. My question for you is, do you think this was kind of like a goodbye to Jimmy? Or does Jimmy somehow make his way back
Well, I still think we're getting for the season.
for the season? Do you think he
Um
somehow makes his way back to Yellowstone?
well, I feel like we have to see within the next 2 episodes. Maybe you disagree. We have to get a funeral scene
For
for
John?
John.
Yeah.
We could go without it.
I think
I
it may be the last episode.
Well, see, this is where I'm going back and forth now because all right, so let's put our theory caps on.
Okay, I'm
Let's
ready.
put our theory
Buckled
caps
in.
on.
Here we go.
All right. So we both are of the theory, most likely. Maybe not because we talked about this. We're probably in a different place this week versus last week. But Jamie is either going to die or he's going to end up in prison.
And I think he'd rather die than end up in prison.
Okay, but do you still think he can go back with the family? Like I can't foresee that happening, to be honest with you. I really
mean,
can't.
we haven't even talked about this.
The
He
opening.
shot himself in the foot in this
What a
episode.
dumbass,
What
man.
a dumbass worm that he is, truly. He literally wasn't on anyone's radar and he talked himself to be the number one suspect. So he deserves everything he's getting. And just like Kayce said, he's like, my brother put himself there. So do whatever you have to do for him. But again, at the end of the day, I think Jamie is a little weasel and he's not strong enough to sit in the like hole that he dug himself into. And I think he's going to crawl his way out. And the only people that he now still has in his corner, even a little bit, is Kayce. Beth is out. Beth will literally kill that man if she has to.
Well, I think that so there has to be he's got to get taken to the train station. Like that has to
You
be
think that's what happens?
100%. It is totally in Yellowstone's DNA for that to be the end result.
And you think that was a foreshadowing of Beth mentioning like if he gets arrested, he's going to start talking about everything that our father ever did?
100%.
Okay.
But so if you go in that direct, now I'm not saying this can't happen, but I would find it a very interesting narrative technique if you have a funeral scene, the same scene in which you're killing off Jamie. So I think that one has to be in one episode and one has to be in the other. So you think it could be the finale?
I think it's going to be the finale because think about it. They're not getting his body back for a while. He was murdered. He's involved in a murder case. They don't release the body unless while the investigation's still going on. So
I guess that's true.
I don't think we're getting the funeral until maybe the last episode.
But Tate also asks in this episode, is he getting buried? Which I think is also alluding to something happening soon.
Probably.
Right?
But I don't how would they have like the funeral and Jamie getting killed at the same time? Because for me, the person who's killing Jamie is Beth. And maybe by association, Beth, maybe it is Rip.
Yeah, I was thinking that too.
But Rip would 100% be at John's funeral.
Well, I'm not saying concurrently.
You're not saying like
I'm saying even narratively in the same episode, I think it would feel off. So I'm thinking, do they kill off Jamie in episode 5? And then episode 6 is like a celebration and the wrapping up of what is to come with the ranch. And again, bringing us to like, I'll ask you the same question I've asked you for 3 weeks now. Are you leaning more or less toward us getting spinoffs?
No, I don't want the spinoffs.
I'm not asking if you want it. I'm not
them.
asking if you want it. I'm asking if you think it's going to happen.
No, I just feel like the way that it's starting to go is that they might be trying for a second season after like another season.
Like season 6 of Yellowstone.
They might. I don't think
it's happening.
You don't think so?
No, I think it's going to be whatever it's going to be called something different. And it might continue a story and it might be Rip and Beth kind of taking over the Dutton legacy. But we're going to lose Kayce and Monica. Jamie's going to be gone.
But so like other routes that could go. Kayce's starting to get a little messy too. He's getting very he literally showed his face to the person that orchestrated John's death.
I don't think it was messy. I think it was badass.
I mean, I think it was definitely badass, but it's risky.
You don't think he was spooked enough to get the hell out of there?
I think he's spooked, but he
was going to blow his 9-year-old daughter's brains.
I know, but he's also
a
man who for life just murders people. So yeah, he was scared in the moment, but he's not just going to be like, oh, I'll stay quiet in the corner and never do anything. He's totally going to retaliate.
But I think the only reason, I think he's not going to retaliate because he knows that Kayce comes from that world.
He has to retaliate, though, because it's fully foreshadowed that Casey's going to have to pick between his family and the land. And the only real, decision that would cause Kayce to be torn between them is, if somebody was attacking his family. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, he says I guess that makes sense. And he says to her, I mean, he alludes to it in the episode too, he's doing something to protect Monica.
Yeah.
But I think he's staying with his family. I mean,
I do too, but I think that it eventually, I feel like this
But plus, we've already done that though.
What though?
His family being attacked. We've already done that.
Yeah, but we've done a lot of this already. It's just keeps coming. Beth hates Jamie. Beth hates Jamie. We keep doing this. But I feel like it's all going to come to a head at some point. And a part of me thinks that I'm kind of changing my tone on Jamie. a part of me thinks that Beth and Kayce get very smart with it, and they know that at the end of the day, they're going to probably need Jamie to start rigging things politically in order for them to keep their land.
No, I don't think that's happening. I don't think it's the payoff the Yellowstone fans want. Let us know in the comments.
Well, what is in a perfect world, how would you want them to end this season?
I think that in a perfect world, I still want a funeral, but I don't know, because I think that it would be a good moment of the family of what Yellowstone means for all of them together. Like we definitely get a lot of that in this episode, but they're still all isolated incidents, right? Like we're getting Kayce with his son, we're getting Beth in her scene with Carter, right? We're getting Rip and Lloyd getting a moment. You're getting Teeter and Walker and Ryan getting a moment, like, and Jimmy and Travis. You're getting all these things unfolding, but at the same time, like, it means more. And this is what I said in the very beginning. Like, John as a patriarch means more than to just. He's still being talked about every episode.
I know.
So it has to be wrapped up with something that still embodies what he represents for the ranch. So at some point that has to happen. Does that happen in episode 5? Possibly. I think it's rushed if they do it next episode. If they do it in episode 6, I think it could be more earned. But then again, I don't think you can kill off Jamie in the same episode as honoring his father. I think that would be really hard to do, like, tonally. I don't know how you go from, like, but who knows, because it's Yellowstone.
Yeah.
Like, they're definitely capable of doing it. But I really think that people want to see Beth kill Jamie. We've been waiting for it for so long.
If she kills him, that spinoff is done.
I don't think it's done.
How does she murder her brother and then just run off with
because
Rip?
At the same time the Duttons still have their stranglehold. Look at who Kayce is having conversations with. He works in the government too, essentially. And he is like, go after my brother. He's a corrupt piece of shit. So this is the way Yellowstone does it. And this is the way the Duttons have always done it, right? Like they find their way around things. Plus, they're aware of this deal that his father didn't want. And you know what? Maybe the new governor comes around and says, I don't want anything to do with it anymore either. This is obviously a messy fucking situation. We have a woman dead. Now Jamie's disappeared for 3 weeks. He's already off my payroll because he can't be involved in this because it's an investigation on his father being dead.
I know, but if they have the spotlight on Jamie already and then all of a sudden he just goes missing or he is found dead, they know who did it.
Well, then maybe they're ending it that way.
What, with Beth getting arrested?
No, Beth's just getting revenge and then that's it. And there's never
that's
an aftermath
disappointing
to it.
if that's how
I'm just saying, like,
well, right
where
now,
else do you go?
I feel like the biggest umbrella amongst all of them is them losing their land. Like, they're literally selling all of their cattle, all their horses to save that land. So at the end of the day, I think, at least for Rip, he doesn't care about Jamie. He's like, I don't care about that. I'm trying to save this, what I have here. Beth, I think, is very mixed because I think she really loves the house and loves the land at the end of the day. And it is where, like, she first fell in love. But she also wants to murder her brother. So I think she's flipped. Kayce's on another storyline.
But so how do you
going
how
to
do you, like, again, here's the other side of it, right? You keep bringing up, like, again, they're going to need to utilize Jamie potentially for political gain or whatever it might be. There's an element of that where it's like, well, then Jamie is the saving grace. I don't think they want that narrative. That narrative would suck.
Yeah, but
because
you said that
he's a
you
piece
liked
of shit.
him. You said you liked him initially. Are you completely off the Jamie train?
No, I said I like Wes Bentley's performance. I think he's a piece of shit.
Okay.
I think the character is an awful human being. I think Wes Bentley, here's why I want to say this. Because Wes Bentley gets a lot of shit. A lot of actors do. When they look at Ewan Ryan, who played what's his name? You know what I'm talking about, right? In Thrones? Who's the one on Thrones that was like the worst person ever? Not Joffrey. The other one. Ramsay Bolton?
Oh, yeah.
Ramsay Bolton. That actor was dragged for years because he was fantastic as playing a piece of shit. Wes Bentley plays this sniveling, slimy sleazeball of a human being to perfection. And he should be nominated for his performance. A lot of these actors should. I think they're all, unfortunately, there's a narrative with the Yellowstone people. And you know what? Yellowstone crowd, we're here for you. But I can't imagine a world in which Jamie in any way wins because it completely defeats the purpose of having an enemy. And
I don't know if he wins though, because his win is in Jamie's eyes, his winning is having power. I don't think he will ever have power again. And in his eyes, losing is being under the grip and wrath of Beth. And I just don't know if politically it makes sense for them to just kill off Jamie, because that opens up a whole nother can of worms, and it doesn't help them save their land at
But
all.
you think that she's gonna be capable enough to stop herself?
I
Like,
don't know. I feel like Rip's gonna come in somewhere in
I
that.
mean, he has to. I feel
Rip's
like.
want at the end of the day is he wants to save the property. He's selling everything to try to.
Yeah.
So I feel like if it comes between, I don't know. This is why I love this show though, because it's not predictable right now.
Yeah.
Like we don't know where they're
With
going
2
with
episodes
it,
left.
which I'm excited about. Like
Yeah.
I think that there's a lot of routes they could go. I think that there's a lot on the line for them to lose. I think that they have still cards to play though, which is making us not completely like, oh, there's no way they can get out of this. I still think they could save the land if they're smart enough with it. But I think the next episode is going to be very political and heavy on the police investigation side. I think we're going to get a little away from the cowboy world.
We'll see. I don't know if we have an episode title for next week yet. Curious.
I wonder if they're keeping it quiet. So nobody.
Well, this week they were counting coup. That was the name of this week's episode.
Count coup.
Episode 12. We do not have. Well, December 8th is going to be the penultimate episode. December 15th will be the finale, 2 days before my birthday. Maybe we'll record on my birthday and we'll bring cowboy hats to celebrate.
This was a high rated episode. It was 8.
8.1 right now.
8.1.
Yeah,
Last week's episode was 8.6. So
yeah.
Last week's was pretty good, but I really enjoyed this episode. I thought it was very emotional, and it was like a nice nod back to some of the original episodes that we had in earlier seasons.
And I just love all of the interactions between the characters. All felt real and genuine and authentic to who these characters are, and they've just done such a good job over the years. Taylor Sheridan, like, creating this world and making you care about character. Like, think about like Ryan and Walker and Dieter, like, are like these side characters, and Colby even obviously, that like they started off as they're like the new recruits coming onto the farm, and now you feel for these characters when they're dying and when they're grieving of other people. I mean, like you had brought up the Ryan saying, I just lost my best friend. Like, it's an emotional moment. That's a real moment for people that they've lived through, and I think they're doing a really good job of the last couple of weeks really wrapping up the show. I hope it's a good payoff. I hope that even if we get a spinoff, it puts us in a place where we're excited about what could be to come, and we could care about living with these characters again. But it's been 6 years. 6 years with these characters. It's a long time.
It's a long time.
It is. But anything else?
No, I'm excited. I'm ready for next
week's
episode.
For next week. Let us know in the comments what you guys thought about episode 12 of season 5, Counting Coup. Let us know in the comments what you guys thought. We love having the conversations with you guys. And for all the people who've been checking us out because of our Yellowstone coverage, thank you guys so much for watching. Let us know also in the comments, what else are you guys watching? We'd love to cover all the stuff that you guys are interested in as our audience. Would love to have discussions with you guys about this world in Yellowstone. Are you guys wanting to see a spinoff? Are you guys fans of like the 1923 show, 1883, all that stuff? Let us know. Also, if you could subscribe to us here at the Culture Media Network, we're covering all things film and television, and Liz and I will be covering the final 2 episodes of Yellowstone here on the channel as well. You can also follow us on social media. All that stuff is below me in the video right now, as well as in our YouTube description. Just signing off, I am Darian Scalamoni.
I am Liz Seiko.
And we'll see you guys next time.
This is The Culture.